Knowing about navigation is an extremely important point when working with mobile applications. The way navigation works in .NET Maui is based on a navigation stack. How does this stack work? First of all, an initial page is started, and as we access different pages, each of the different pages that we invoke are stacked on this navigation stack. If at any time we would like to return to a previous page, the page that is at the top of the stack is removed from the navigation stack and we return to a previous window in such a way that the different elements that are at the top of the navigation stack are removed. Let's see how we can implement this navigation stack in .NET Maui. We are now back in Visual Studio. We're going to proceed to go to the main page.saml.cs file, which is the one here. We can see some logic that takes place when we press the button. As part of the graphical interface this file, we have defined a button that is going to allow us to click on that button to execute a certain action. In this case, it is defined through an event called click, and this click event refers to an event handler called onCounterClick. As the SAML file and the CS file are linked, by having an event handler defined as part of this file, we are indicating that we want that when this button is clicked, we want to invoke or execute the logic that is part of this event handler. We're going to proceed to remove this logic that is by default, and in its place, we're going to discover a property that is part of this type of pages called content page. This property is the property called navigation, which is going to allow us to navigate between different pages. And as part of this property, we have a method called pushAsync, and we have a property called popAsync. Push is going to allow us to stack or invoke new pages to be placed on top of the navigation stack, and pop is going to allow us to remove those pages from the navigation stack by starting from the top of the navigation stack. Let's then indicate that we want to navigate to this page we created earlier called contentpagedemo.saml. Let's use the pushAsync method, which receives a page element type, which is the page we created earlier. We have to create an instance of this page since there is no previous reference, and we're going to indicate that we want to create an instance of the content page demo class. Remember to use the pair parentheses, and already in this way we are indicating that we want to add an element to the navigation stack of the content page demo type. And for this to work correctly, remember that we must indicate that main page is the initial page. Let's start the application to see how it behaves with this change we have made. Let's click on the button that says click, but notice that it seems that nothing is happening when we click on this button. We have no exceptions, we don't have any message that tells us that something has gone wrong. However, the problem that's happening is that we're trying to go from a first page to a second page, but we haven't created that navigation stack, or we haven't told the framework how we want to handle that navigation stack. Therefore, we have to define a special page type called navigation page that will allow us to keep track of the pages that have been added to the navigation stack and those pages that are removed from the navigation page. How can we do this? We have to define as part of the property called main page a new page of type navigation page. Then we have to indicate that we want an element of type navigation page, which is a class. And as part of the navigation page constructor, we can specify an initial page that is going to be part of the navigation stack. In this case, we're going to indicate that we want main page to be the home page for the application. If we proceed to start the application, let's click on the button again and see that this time we are already navigating to this new page that we have specified previously. We can go back to a previous page through this new bar that has been created because we are using a navigation page, and we can do this multiple times. One thing we can do as part of this navigation bar that we see at the top is to modify different properties. How can we do this? Well, we're going to proceed to modify different attributes that are part of that bar to modify the properties. We're going to proceed to declare a variable called navPage, which is equal to this piece of code that we have indicated at the bottom. And subsequently, we're going to assign navPage as part of this main page. But before carrying out the execution of the application, we're going to modify some properties of navPage, which is going to be the instance only of the navigation page. We have some properties such as bar background color that we can set through colors, dot, and we can select one of these colors that are part of this list. For example, let's choose the color chocolate, and we can also specify through navpage.text color what is going to be the color of the text in the navigation bar. Let's access again to this colors class, and let's select, for example, the white color. And with this change that we have applied, let's proceed once again to run the application, and look how the bar has changed color. If we click on the button, we see this bar in brown color, and we see also the text in white color. Finally, something that might confuse you in case this is your first experience with mobile development is the following. Let's suppose that as part of this page that we have created previously, called Content Page Demo, we create or define as part of this element stack layout an element under this element label of type button. We specify a property called text with the value click me, and we're going to proceed to define the click event. We have here an option as part of Visual Studio that allows us to create the event handler in a quick way so that we don't have to be creating it manually. What has happened with this, let me close this tag, is that as part of the code behind, let's quickly go to this file. This event handler has been created so that we can write C# code directly and perform some kind of action. In our case, we're going to indicate that we want to use once again the property called navigation, and we want to create a new instance as part of the navigation stack, but this time of type main page. We have replicated the behavior that we had previously in main page with this button. We simply create a button and define what action we want to execute when this button is clicked. Thanks to this click event, we're going to start the application. Here we have the application. Let's click on the button. Notice that we have defined this new button that says click me. Let's click it again, and in this way we can create many new references to this page. The problem comes when we define some element, as for example an entry element that we're going to know later. We're going to change only the color of the text by a white color so that this example is noticed correctly. We are not going to modify anything else so that it is a simple example. And if this time we click on the button and modify the content of this entry element that allows us to insert text, click again on click me, again on the click me, we arrive at a window where that content that we had previously has disappeared. And what some people often think is that there should be the same content if it is the same page, but the truth is that a new instance of this page has been created. If we go back in the navigation stack, we see how we arrived at the page that had the text we had previously entered. So you should not trust that by creating an instance of the same type of page, you will have the same content. Remember that there is always a navigation stack to which if we add more pages, this will accumulate as part of the navigation stack.